Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Jason, the Wizard of Ops, and with me, as always, is Jay, aka Dark Matter. Jay, how was your weekend?
Yeah, I'm really good. Nice and relaxing. It went by a little bit too quickly, but we're almost to the holiday stretch here, so almost to the end.
Yeah, I was about to say that. And relaxing is never a word I use for this what you call it, like the Christmas Advent season, I guess. For the Catholics out there, the Advent season is definitely a time of preparation, right?
That's
Buying.
100% true. But it's a good time of the year, right? Got Christmas trees and lights, and it's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
festive, very festive.
yeah. All right, so let's get into markets. All right, it got 1 minute of
Yeah.
introduction, and the markets are a little bit shaky. So we probably got a lot to talk about. Let's move forward. What are you seeing?
Yeah, yeah. Let's jump right into it. So I guess this week, let's just first start with the weekly expected move and then the catalyst. But let's just do a quick recap of last week. We kind of called out again that 6,800 shelf that continues to hold, and that held again last week. We did create a new high in the markets, if I remember correctly here. Just looking at this, we hit a high of 6,903 last week in the SPX. So we tested that 6,900 level, but what immediately happened when we tested that level? Major collapse. It was really quick, and we're trying to now retrieve some of that loss or some of that sell back. But I'll quickly just pause. Anything you want to say about last week
Yeah,
before we kick into this week?
I mean, we've been seeing like negative Vanna for a while, and last week was FOMC week. I did not necessarily think that the FOMC was unequivocally bullish. I even did not think that, and really the options landscape did not look like it was ready for a rally. But even when you have negative Vanna, you can move the market up by crushing vol, and crush vol we did. I mean, what was it, like 3 points from the beginning of the week? Like it was, and through Thursday. The one thing I'd like to also call attention to is, even though we sold off like 1% in the market, right, on Friday, vol did not move. Like it moved in accordance with skew. There was no over vixing. It was, you could say like a calm, cool, collected sell off. When we bounced off of 6,800, I think we closed at like 6,830 or something like that. And I know the pre-market is up. But even though the pre-market is up, VIX is up now. So there's still some vol indigestion going on. It is VolX this Wednesday, so that could be a part of it. I also thought it was weird that VX futures were about 1.2 points ahead of VIX with only 3 trading days until expiration. That was on Friday. And so I still think that there is a little bit of market indigestion that has to settle down before we can even expect like a Santa rally or anything like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I mean, let's also not forget we had one heck of a rally, the week of Thanksgiving as well, right? So
Yeah.
a lot of that rally kind of juiced up into there. So let's jump into this week. There's a lot of volatility this week. We'll jump into the catalyst this week, but the options market is expecting about 108-point move. So that puts your upper target at about 969.24 and your lower target at about 67.09. So even the market is expecting a little bit of turbulence this week. And some of the big items that are out there, I'll just kind of go through it. This is going to be like a worldwide week in terms of catalysts. You have quite a bit of Europe, also coming out with key data. But on the US front, I think this week, just to summarize all of this that you see here, there's going to be jobs data that will come out this week. We have CPI data. And we also have some home sales that will be major eyes on that. And then the consumer sentiment. I would just note PPI got canceled last week. So I will just put it out there. That is the one caveat here. The fine print. We don't dictate this calendar. So if something gets canceled, it might get canceled, not on us. But Wiz, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, we do not dictate the calendar. One thing, a couple of side notes from what you're talking about. The NFP report is a 2-month NFP report, but a 1-month unemployment report. So they're two different surveys. So you can't go back and survey, were you employed 2 months ago? Pointless.
Fair, yes.
So this is going to be I think a larger than normal NFP report. Additionally, I think it's CPI 2 months. I don't quite know that one, but I'm not quite sure. A couple things that you missed in here is the Bank of Japan is having a rate decision. Yeah. And that is expected to be a hike. The yen has weakened considerably, but now bonds are beginning to anticipate a BOJ hike that can create a little bit. If it's a hawkish hike, that could create a little bit of a catalyst in the market. And also, even though it's not in the calendar, because again, we don't dictate the calendar, the Supreme Court is due probably before the end of the year to rule on Trump's tariffs. And then they not only have to rule on Trump's tariffs, but the fallout from it. So if Trump's tariffs have been deemed illegal, like they have at the 3 lower courts, then the Supreme Court probably has to rule on will the government have to pay back rebates to the companies that got tariffs charged to them? Will what will Trump be allowed to kind of pocket, fold those tariffs into a different law that he would be allowed to use? I mean, there's a lot that it's a mess. As legal issues tend to cause, which we know all too well now. But the bad actions can create messes that go very deep, and those deep messes can be very costly to fix. So yeah, I mean that's just one thing that I think we have to keep an eye on, or keep, there's not going to be any leaks. It's just going to happen. There's no press release. There's no, it just happens. And then the market will react. So there's no communication beforehand, nothing like that. And it is kind of, many people are saying it's a toss up. I think it's more likely than not the tariffs are going to be, at least under that IEEPA legislation, tariffs are going to be deemed illegal. It's just a matter of how our economy will digest that problem. I mean, personally, those tariffs, if Trump has to give rebates, then they have to get that money from somewhere, and that's going to go to the bond market, and that's going to create huge illiquidity in bonds. So I think that can happen. If it happens before the end of the year, then that could, this week would be basically the end of the year. I don't think they're going to release something the day after Christmas, right? But if it doesn't happen before this week, then I would start looking toward after New Year's.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a busy week. So with that, let's jump into some of the key dealer positions on the week. So, I think as you go north, we're trading roughly at about 68, 65 SPX right now. So I think as you start to go north of here, you're entering into even more negative vantage as we go up here, and we'll see that in Volland here in just a second. But here are kind of my key levels on the week. I think, as we chase here and, futures action opening hours, the 68.75 zone, as we kind of tip the scale towards it, I wouldn't be shocked what I start to see here is more mean reversion, which is in order for these highs to hold here, some of what you just went through, between the BOJ, the tariffs, the jobs data, the CPI, even, you got to clear a lot of key information to break through that 6,900 level here again. Even if you get close to it, I think it's sell any rips essentially, is how I look at it. Again, the data will have to, change, or, we have to see how, the catalysts come out this week. But I think clearly if we go into Volland here, Wiz, on the week, you're still negative. The all expiration, you're negative Vanna as well. And if I just kind of populate just the all expiration here, I'm going to let you kind of chime in, but you can kind of see here, this ridge that you see here going into 6,900, that dips you back right into negative Vanna. And then you have over here 6,800. And we talked about this at the top of the show. It's held, but the minute that this thing goes, boy, is it going to rip, and is it going to rip fast to 6,700? But I'll pause. Any thoughts?
Yeah, Vanna, it's hard as much to on all expiration Vanna, because you don't know how much of that cumulative is, it's fixed price vol. So, it's not like VIX or something. So, I mean, every single option kind of moves, but still, yeah. I mean, if we break through this, if you want to go to gamma, because I mean, we see now like the Vanna has like the down slopes on both sides, but you could see right here, this negative gamma, if we cross through that 6,900, right?
Yep.
If we cross through that 6,900, we can rip too. So, I mean, it's not just that, but if we don't crash through that, which is basically, these are short calls. So people are betting long calls there. If we don't crash through that, we get down. I think that 6,800, is that the positive gamma right there?
Yep.
Yeah. 6,800. If we get through that, there is, clear air, at least down to like that 6,750 area, but we should, test that 6,700. I think that because it's negative Vanna and it's only 1 week now until OPEX, I think a lot of it will realize to the downside. We may crash through 6,800. 6,700, I've been saying in my Substack for a while, the 6,700 test before OPEX could be a possibility, where, we got at least to 6,800 on Friday. I do think that the options are implying like a 12% chance. I think it's much greater than that. Even if we don't hit it, you can definitely, if you buy that strike and you're selling prior to expiration, you could probably make a couple dimes there. So, I mean, that's really, it's that big negative gamma below this current price that I would start seeing major swings. And if we crash through 6,800, the momentum can take us down as far as 6,700, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I know this area here has eluded me for a few weeks now as we've tried to break below 6,800, and you've had some serious zero DTE position coming to hold it, a little bit of shift as well here. So I would love to see finally 6,800 break. I think it's even healthy for the markets for that retracement, but I think that has eluded us. But you can clearly see here, you lose that 6,800, it's an air pocket here, basically. So, especially from a gamma standpoint, and you have the catalyst this week. So, if anything, as long as these news events don't go anywhere, that's kind of what you said. But you are 100% right. If any of that is positive or seen as a catalyst positively by the market, you can have a very strong reaction here to the upside as well. So,
yeah.
I think my general view this week is we're kind of consolidated here below 6,900 and above 6,800. And there's some key levels here that we just talked about where I think you can buy intraday, especially. But otherwise, you need one side of these to break here for that extra leg, or call it the next leg, up or down.
Yeah. Real quick before you go on, I want to show this comment. 6,700 before OPEX seems impossible, given we are above 68.60 on ES. what about 6860 on ES makes 6700 impossible? Like we almost there is no like it's just that's just a numbers game. I mean, it's you could say 10 is impossible, but a meteor can hit America. Like it's there is like there's I kind of use that classic Wayne Gretzky quote, skates where the puck is going, but the fact that 6700 seems impossible to some of you means let's point
It's
there. That
possible.
increases my conviction.
No, I mean, I think the uncertainty with this week, if you know how the Greeks operate here, is just all the news catalysts, right? Like, are we going to get a full jobs data? What kind of jobs data are we going to get? How will the market react to it? And is one piece of news going to be positive, another negative? So, like, is there that weird reaction to both of them, right? So, I think ultimately you got to play the key levels. At least for myself as an intraday trader here, we'll be playing around some of these key levels. Overnight here, as we, for those of you who are curious, we do call out, do provide some of these levels overnight, and the big one here for me was just holding 6850 overnight. Was we flipped that? That was some gamma and vana there that we flipped. We retested that level, held it, and now we're trading up north, about to get to 6870. So, that to me, at least intraday, I know the key levels. That's where I'll be playing for any mean reversions, and then I'm not looking for any breakout trades at this point. I think that's safe to say, as I will not be chasing the long here early in this morning session.
Yeah, I will not be either. No. Like I said, I would have to, and I would hedge for a break of 6,900. But really, this is actually kind of a hard environment to trade, because 6,900, if that breaks, we can shoot up heavy. If 6,800 breaks, we can shoot down. If neither of them break, we're not shooting anywhere, obviously. So, I mean, there's probably, like, when you're trying to, when I trade, and especially using options, I try to identify what risks am I willing to accept. And there's only like a little pocket below, 6,800 and a pocket above 6,900 that I'm willing to accept. So it makes for a very weird option structure. So in my view, I'm just kind of sizing down, and I'll maybe add positions as time goes on or as price moves. Be like, okay, well, maybe this is something, but at this point in time, I'm basically looking to de-risk. That's that's the best way to put it. I think all-time highs is what, 69.20 or something like that.
Yeah, roughly. Yep.
So, I mean, we could try to test that, but we'll have to see.
Agree with you there. Well, that gives the week's plan here, so that's what we're looking forward to on the week.
Yeah, I think there's also FedEx earnings and some other earnings, I think.
Let me
I forget which ones those are too. I know FedEx earnings, I think, is like Thursday evening. I always like to look at transportation or shipping logistics companies, UPS, FedEx, primarily because that reflects a lot of the goods inflation that we would be seeing. I do find it, if I could do a little while you're looking that up, Nike, that was the other one I was thinking of. I did find it strange. Do you think that the Fed, and everybody comment in the comments, did you think that the Fed was unequivocally bullish?
No, I thought he was also like doing his normal Powell thing, like I'm data, right? I'm waiting for the data. I like, and based on the sentiment of the other Fed chairs as well, or the Fed people, right? They also were just very, very hesitant to cut this last time even. And that hesitates going forward now, right? Like the expectations, I think, are set there because you have some pressures with, Powell's replacement coming in. You got Trump after Lisa Cook's position, right? And that DOJ or Supreme Court decision waiting. So it did not. And I think we have to be careful here is if you're a bull, you don't want a fast rate cut, right? That typically means something bad in the economy is happening or occurring. And
Yeah.
we now need to change course extremely fast. So like a slower rate cut here is actually pretty healthy for everyone, in my opinion. But I didn't even sense that coming out of last week. Your thoughts?
Yeah. I think that first of all, Powell did say that now they are close to neutral. So, this cutting cycle was meant to get us to neutral. So now Powell's saying we're within that range. They fill out their survey of economic projections, the SEP. They fill those out prior to the meeting. Don't fill those out during the meeting. So the fact that there was, that last December, where are rates going to be at the end of this year? And you saw that there were, what was it, like 5 that were saying we weren't planning on cutting. So even though there was only 2 dissensions saying, we should keep rates the way we are, there were really 5 people, 5 governors that weren't, that were going into this meeting saying we're not going to cut. And that means 3 of them, whoever they were, said, all right, fine, I'll go along with the group. But I don't think that those 3 or, some other people in the 7 that decided to cut, I don't think they are, going to be excited or be very, I think they'll be very reluctant to cut anymore. I don't think that for the remainder of Jerome Powell's term, which I guess is until May, I would be shocked if there is any change in rates. You can almost put the Fed to bed. So, as a catalyst, I think the only way that we see another cut is if we see a dramatic downturn in employment and not a dramatic upturn in inflation. And with tariffs, honestly, if tariffs get reversed by the Supreme Court, that is inflationary because then now the government has to inject all this, refund money. So that will be inflationary, even if like in the beginning, like right before, if the tariffs get turned down, I would expect to see a market rally. It would be a rally to fade for both fundamental reasons and for even flow reasons. For the fundamental reasons, if the market rallies because of the Supreme Court decision, next thing that the government has to do is to fund these hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. They fund that through bonds. They're not going to tax us, right? They're going to fund it through bonds, which is going to suck liquidity out of the banking system. And if that happens, then the Fed will have to act. They'll have to do something. Number 2 is if the tariffs are reversed and we get this liquidity into the system, all of a sudden inflation is going to go up, probably, months afterward. But inflation will come up because the government just injected more debt into the system. So in that case, the Fed will have to act, right? Like these are parts of the Fed's their dual mandate. So I don't know, like I think, it's going to get volatile. Let's just put it that way. And for me, from an options flow standpoint, where I saw only really 2 small areas of risks I would be willing to accept. And from a fundamental area, I am sizing down, and I'm, and plus it'd be nice to not have any size going into Christmas because, to be honest, I don't feel like waking up in a slight panic, if something happens over the Christmas break and, I'm positioned, all of a sudden I'm over levered because of something fundamental occurring in the liquidity markets. So
Agree with you.
So that's kind of my thing. Intraday, though, I mean, whatever you guys are doing, I mean, The one issue I would be careful of, though, intraday and having stops is, again, that Supreme Court doesn't give any warning, right? They're not like, warning, we're about to release something that's going to affect your portfolio. That never happens. So that would be kind of cool, though, but it never happens. Warning, everybody, we're about to affect your portfolio.
You tell him we can't get in April, like when he was like, just buy the market,
Yeah, right. Well, that was Trump. Trump doesn't even know when they're going to release anything. The Supreme Court, if we can figure out what the Supreme Court's account numbers are on Robinhood, get the Amy Coney Barrett. Congratulations, you have bought. I'd be like,
that's right.
She'd be like, okay,
Insider.
we can release now.
Yeah.
I bought puts. You could release now. So, yeah. So, anybody? Micron earnings on this Wednesday? Sure. Yeah, I'll wait until tomorrow to do it, but I'll put it on the to-do list right now with my little Wizard of Ops pen. I'll put it on the to-do list for Wednesday.
It's quite interesting that you've got just quickly looking at earnings here. It's quite interesting that you've got Micron still part of that, the chip and AI story here. You've got a bunch of housing data, and then you've got Lennar and KB Homes reporting, and then as you alluded to it, just to see how the consumer and the economy is doing, FedEx and Nike. So this is not a dull week by any means, man. We're supposed to be coming into the holiday season here, Wiz. What the heck?
Yeah, Duluth Trading, man. They have some hardcore pants, man. You can't rip them if you try. They're expensive.
Made in America.
They're expensive. They are. But you can't rip them if you try. I don't know where they make them, but if they're tariffed, then those prices are going up. But yeah, Nike too. Night tariffs. Probably. I mean, I don't know how they dealt with tariffs. What they do? Like go to Vietnam or something? Or
yeah, I mean, they've been kind of de-risking themselves, just like a lot of the other big manufacturers. Vietnam has definitely been one there, and I think even Pakistan, India has seen a growth from Nike. So
I didn't know. I didn't know Scholastic was a public company. A company that rips us off by advertising their books directly to my 8-9-year-old kids. Like, like, here, have some trinkets. Have some trinkets for $10. I'm like, I could have gotten that. Could have gotten you that at Walmart for $1, but instead we had to buy this book for $3. Great.
Well, the other one that is interesting here is the Accenture. I like to just pay attention to these. These kind of have what I call like the next story or the next leg of the AI story, right? Which is more on the software services, the implementation side of all the hardware that's going on right now. Yeah. So this, I'll be curious to see what Accenture says. So I'll be listening at least at a minimum to this earnings.
All right. Sure. So bring up Volland. Apollo wants Broadcom. Let's check it out.
Right.
And then we'll go.
Why is he so curious about that one? That's interesting, huh?
Not for the fund. that's Phoenix's realm. But all right. Yeah, you don't want to look at Broadcom 0 DTE. There is no 0 DTE.
No.
Or whatever.
No, I just don't have my.
You don't have like your individual stock.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I just haven't updated.
Still locked in there. But it looks like, is this Vanna? It looks like how much of those are puts? Put it in puts, because then that will tell you if there is a possibility of a gamma rebound. Right.
Here we go. Boom.
Yeah, so those first few red bars were puts being bought. So there is a chance for a gamma rebound to where AVGO was before. Still a lot of support below. just those calls are also bought above. So I would target that big red line, not that one. That one, yeah, I would target there. What's that price?
380.
Yeah, that's probably a good spot to target now. No, from my perspective, I don't know. Do you see anything there?
No, I mean, I think I agree with you here. I mean, looking,
A little bit of mean
yeah,
reversion.
yeah, I'm aligned with you there. I was gonna say,
Mhm.
let me just look at its gamma here. Where's my gamma chart? Sorry, again, I need to get my charts organized here, but I mean, here's your gamma.
Well, that's the way it's going to always, because in AVGO, it was bought puts and calls on both sides before earnings. And you saw the whipsaw, right? Um,
Yeah.
I remember when they first got released, there was like half of the Discord was celebrating, like, "Yay, we were long!" And then earnings call came out and tanked, and then the other half of the Discord was like, "Yay, we were right." We all were
Such a
nimble.
swing in a few hours.
Um, but yeah, I think in the end it'll go back to that balance point because that's, and this is true with like most tech stocks right now, is the positioning is puts and calls long, and we're sitting in the middle of them. So like any movement, we're probably going to come back. The SPX though is a little different story. So I mean, if we move down, I'm still kind of seeing maybe like a Santa Claus rally or something. If we test 6,700, I think the only way we don't see that is if we crack 6,700. We'll get a Santa Claus rally, and it'll be a disappointing ending to the year. But yeah, 6,700 is a big strike. Has been for a couple weeks now. So I'd be surprised if we don't test it.
Nice.
Yeah, Apollo's saying he sees a great long. That's what we were just saying. We think we could bounce here. Think we could bounce.
Yeah.
I
agree.
All right. So thank you everybody for watching. For Jay, I'm Jason, the Wizard of Ops, and may Volland help you in your future trading ventures.